Welcome, everyone. I don't know if you all can hear me. Hello, hello, hello. I think we have some friends of Sean's as well. So, Sean, you want to say hello?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So, Tim, Pauline, Vivian, thank you so much for joining our little call today. It's great to see you all on camera, along with all of the other people on the call. We have a great show in store for all of you. So please just get settled and we'll kick things off pretty
Yes,
soon.
so thanks for that, Sean. My name is Henry Kang. I see some familiar faces in the welcome screen. I see some new faces as well. So for those of you who are new, welcome to the New Voice. I look forward to hearing where you heard about us and how you found us here. As you probably can tell, we have some things that may be different than you've experienced on Zoom. This is what we've been working on for the past 2 months under quarantine, like everybody else, is we've tried to figure out a way to put this all online. And so for those of you who are familiar with us, who've been here for the past couple months, the thing I think you'll notice this time is that we are now in high def. We're broadcasting in 1080p, which also means that we are live streaming in 1080p. So I can see you all in grid view. How many of you are Toastmasters already or know of Toastmasters? Can you raise your hand if you are familiar with Toastmasters? Okay, looks like most of you are. Well, for most of you who are Toastmasters, you know, as a fellow Toastmaster, that this is about learning how to speak in front of an audience. I've been doing this with New Voice along with Sean and Kaylee, who you're going to meet here shortly, for 4 or 5 years now at the New School. And the New School is our club for Toastmasters. And like everyone else, we're now having to shift to a new way of doing things. But the interesting thing is that this is a new way of doing things that I think is going to be around for a while. And so because it's going to be around for a while, we've decided that we're going to do whatever we can to embrace the technology that we have to make this more enjoyable rather than another taxing, fatiguing Zoom meeting. So what we've done is we've allowed you all as the audience members to participate. And you can see on the screen here that we have a support channel. So Sean, Kaylee, if you can throw some gifts up there so people can see. This is open to you all to join us so that when the speakers speak, you can then give your feedback in the channel. So if any of you who've coming back from previous meetings are already in the channel, feel free to hop in the channel now. But for those of you who are new, we do want you guys to join up so that you can be part of that support stream. There are instructions in the channel or in the grid view. So there should be a side-by-side view that you guys have access to on your computers in Zoom. See if you can find the side-by-side view. And then in that grid, you're going to see one of the channels that says Welcome Info that will have the instructions as to how to get onto the live stream support channel. If anybody has any problems, feel free to put your name in the chat and we can get you some help in terms of how to make that happen. But the first thing we need to do is to get you guys to sign up for the New Voice and get you into the channel. So, Sean, are you monitoring the chat for us? And if anybody has got any troubles, and they'll let us know.
Yeah, I'm on it.
Okay, so that's an important part of what we're trying to do, is to make sure that the one thing that is missing for us now that we're separated is the ability to have the audience feedback. When we're in front of an audience, there's the immediate feedback of looking people in the eye, which you can't do here. So you can't get that information back. So the support channel is meant to do that for us. So we're really asking everybody to try to get on that channel. If you can, send us your email, and then we'll get you an email invite to get on the channel. All right, if anybody's got any problems, as I said, hop in the chat. And a couple other things that I do want to go through tonight as well. Our table topics is open for all. We have 10 slots. The way to hop on the table topics is to hit the link that Sean is going to put in the chat now. And let me see if I can put that up for us. So that sheet that you see on the screen is an Excel spreadsheet that is linked to what Sean is putting in the chat now. So if you hit that link, you can sign up for table topics. We've got 10 slots. So hop in there now, as well as if you're looking to get on the support stream, send us your email there as well. Okay, so while you all are doing that and learning the intricacies of Zoom, how about I go through and just do some quick introductions for the guests in the room. I've got you all on grid view so I can see who's here. If you are new, please raise your hand to the new voice. Okay, Pauline, Ethan, Gabriel, Steve, Cynthia, Eric. Okay, we have a few people here. So what I think I'm going to do is try to do some experimenting. We're still new at this as well, so we're going to have to figure out how to make this all work, but let me try. Give me a second here. So one-man show right now. Okay. Ethan, are you there? Let's see if we get your microphone.
I'm on.
Welcome, Ethan. How'd you find out about the new voice?
Sanella, she invited me. I'm actually in LA, so.
In LA. So how's
Yes.
the coronavirus in LA?
We haven't hit the I guess the lowering of it yet, so we're still on the rise. So we've been pretty locked down. I think we've opened a couple of businesses, but for the most part, we're still on social isolation.
Well, we're in the same place here in New York, so it's glad to see that we have people who are all going through the same thing at the same time, and we can now join each other via Zoom. So the amazing part of technology is that we can connect with people in LA. So welcome. That's great to have you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
And again, try to get on the chat if you can, and the support channel, and on the speaker list. How about Pauline? Are you there, Pauline?
Yes, I am.
Hear me?
Yeah.
Welcome, Pauline.
Thank you.
How did you hear about the new voice?
Through Sean.
Sean, yes, another guest for Sean. Sean's been a longtime member of the new voice for us, so we really appreciate you having you here. Are you calling from New York as well?
Yes, I'm a native New Yorker.
Under lockdown with the rest of us. Well, glad you're here. Hopefully we'll see you back again. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having us.
Let me see who else we got. Hello, is it Tim? Is that what I see?
Yes, Tim here.
Tim, welcome to the new voice. How'd you hear about us?
It's a pleasure to be here with all of you. I am another one of Sean's recruits here with Pauline, soaking up that beautiful New York sun right now. So Sean speaks very highly of you and Kaylee. I've not had the fortunate opportunity to meet you until now, so it's a pleasure to be here.
Well, I'm glad to have you here. It's great that we've got somebody like Sean, who's such a big supporter of ours. So appreciate it. And again, hopefully we'll have you back again in the future. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Is it Steve and Cynthia?
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you.
How'd you find out about the new voice?
We are Toastmasters in Midway, Kentucky, and we were looking for a club that we could visit in New York, and we found your club tonight and thought we'd pop in.
Oh, that's fantastic. How is life in Kentucky? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Going very well right now.
Are you guys under lockdown as well?
Definitely.
Got it. And is the virus really bad there, or is it something you guys are kind of managing with?
I think we're managing it pretty well. Our governor has been pretty aggressive in trying to manage it. So we're doing pretty well.
And we live in a little small dinky town, so we don't have that many cases, but our bigger cities do.
Right, of course. You know, that's the thing about the virus is that the more closely we're all in terms of space, the more likely it is we're going to get caught. And so New York is in a really tough spot.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So we feel for you. We're all going through the same thing. So hopefully we'll pass this shortly. But in the meantime, thanks for coming to the New Voice. Really appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you.
And again, hopefully you'll sign up for our table topics. We'd love to hear you guys speak and tell us about your life in Kentucky and all that. That is the good part about us being here in New York is that I always say we're the capital of the world. We want to hear about all the things in all the different places because we're in the central of coronavirus madness. So we'd love to hear how life is for you guys in Kentucky. I'm from Indiana, by the way, so I'm a Hoosier. So yeah, we're rivals in basketball, but we'll go there some other time. Thanks for coming. Let me see if there's anybody else that's Janet, are you there?
Yes. Hi, Henry. How are you?
I'm good, Janet. How'd you hear about the New Voice?
I think there might be a little confusion, but I heard about it from Rajiv Jadhav.
Yes.
Now, does this group meet at the 92nd Street Y under normal circumstances?
No, we are part of the new school and down on 14th Street, but Rajiv met us in the online portion of our meeting. So he's been here the past few meetings. I'm surprised he's not here. He's one of our faithful attendees. How do you know Rajiv?
I spoke at Rajiv's Toastmasters group. I was invited to speak last November. I've spoken at various other clubs. I'm in a club called it's funny, like I'm like not on the camera for some reason, but I'm in a club called SEC Rough Riders. I don't know if you're familiar with that club. We meet at the New York Bar Association under normal circumstances in Midtown.
I see. Okay, so another fellow Toastmaster from New York, then.
Yes.
Well, welcome. I'm glad to hear that there's ways for us to all connect online and meet other Toastmasters. You know, we have our club that's at the New School on 14th Street. And the funny thing is, we don't really get a chance to meet other Toastmasters. So the good part about the video meetings is we've had people from Australia, we've had people from the Bahamas, we've had people from all over the world joining our meetings. So it's great to have you here in New York.
Likewise, it's great to be here, Henry.
And again, get on the table topics if you would all, so that we have speakers for the evening. That's on, again, Sean will share the chat in the link in the chat. So sign up via the link there. Let me see if anybody else has joined. I think that may be it for our new members.
Oh, I'm also new.
Ah, I hear a voice. I'm sorry, who is that?
This is Gabriella.
Gabriella, I'm scrolling through our grid view here, Gabriella, looking for you. Give me a second. Ah, there we are. Gabriella, welcome to the New Voice. How did you find out about us?
Rajiv also sent me the invitation.
Rajiv, yes, he's been one of our biggest supporters. So how do you know Rajiv?
I recently met him through a networking group and we had a great one-to-one, and I mentioned that I was part of a Toastmasters and he recommended that I come check your guys' out.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, well, I think that's the plan. We have a global network of fellow Toastmasters out there that I said we've never had a chance to meet before because we all have our individual clubs. But for the first time, we can now meet each other online around the world. So it's a pleasure to have you. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Hopefully you'll sign up for the table topics. And I'll make one last request for you all to get onto the support stream to help out the rest of us as we speak. And I'm going through the list one more time to see if there's anybody else that's new.
Yeah, and I'll just jump in really quickly, Henry, because I know I've seen some folks come in a little later who might not have heard it already, but if you would, I think Christina, you came in, and maybe Janet as well after we announced it, but please send me your email address in the chat so I can get you looped into the support channel that you're seeing on the side view of Henry right now. It's on the right side. That's where we can interact and give our speakers some positive feedback tonight. So if you could, send me your email address now and I'll get you hooked up with that. I do have Gabriella's in there now. Pauline, I think I got you in there. And I think I'm missing a couple more people, but as long as you, oh, Tim, I'm gonna add you right now too. You'll be able to see the channel. If anyone's having any trouble finding where this menu is, this live support channel, just let us know that in the chat and we'll try and direct you.
Yes, and for those of you who don't know, that is Kaylee, our wonderful president of the New Voice Club. She's also going to be our table topics master for the evening, so we'll see more of her later on. But
hello.
Yes, is there somebody else that I hear?
Yes, Christina and I are here on my rooftop.
I'm sorry, I can't quite hear you. Who?
This is Dulce, and I'm with Christina on my rooftop in the village. Can you see us?
Yes, is that Dee? We may have some video issues with Dee. Dee, you there? We may have lost Dee. Well, for those of you who don't know, Dee is one of our longtime members of our club as well. Looks like she may be outside enjoying the weather. And it looks like she may have a friend. Dee, if you can hear us, I think we've got some audio-visual problems, so we'll try and come back in a bit, I think. Okay, so Kaylee, how are we doing on our table topics list? We have speakers?
Yeah, thanks for signing up, everyone. We have 6 speakers, which means we have 4 slots left. For those of you who are new, which actually is quite a few of you tonight, welcome. Our table topics questions tend to be around the coronavirus. We are trying to make a space where we can talk about what's happening in our lives during this universal craziness we're going through. So as you can see at the top there, we have the question, how is coronavirus affecting your life? We're gonna put a little bit of a spin on that for table topics tonight, but that's the general topic of the evening. So we have 4 more slots. We'd love to hear from you, especially those of you who are from elsewhere outside New York. We want to hear the stories of what's happening in places outside of where we're able to directly see, because I think a lot of us are New Yorkers here, but then we also have folks from Kentucky, which is awesome. So we do have some slots available. We'd love to hear from you. And I see, Christina, you sent me your email address. I'll get you signed up. If anyone else is having trouble finding the channel, I'll try and help you as much as possible, but the instructions are also on the welcome info page. So if you're looking in the grid view and you see one of the video streams is called welcome info, that gives a really detailed instructions of how to both sign up for the live stream channel, how to get the email, and then what to do once you have the email and are in the channel. So I will get a few more people in here. We have 25 people in the live support chat. That's awesome. And Henry, I'm going to get a few more people in here before we start off with the table topics. Okay. So give me 1 second.
Looks like we're getting close to starting here, folks. Glad you all can be with us. And as we finalize our prep for the show, I do want to make a couple last announcements for us. We are still new at this. So for those of you who are with us for the first time, forgive the growing pains. We're still kind of figuring it out as we go. But that's kind of the point of Toastmasters for us, is the ability to try things out that we can do with a safe, supportive audience. And that's why I do want to start out by saying thank you for all for coming. You also know, as fellow Toastmasters, that this doesn't work without an audience. We can't do the things we do without people to give us the criticism and the feedback and the support to make it better. So thanks for coming. For those of you who have been here for the past 2 months, you have seen a dramatic improvement from where we started. We were a regular Zoom meeting, and now we have all this kind of cool tech that we can incorporate. We are only planning to get better, and that requires our members, and for those of you who are interested in joining us, to come back every week and to start to support the live chat. So get the gifts going, get the support going, because that's going to be hopefully as much as part of the show for us as anything. And what we're ultimately trying to do is to get this to a place where we're live streaming, where people come and want to watch us, not because they're Toastmasters, but because they just like watching the show. So keep in mind, we are live streaming. Anybody that wants to see the show afterwards and to see how they look on camera, that's going to be in the link that we'll send to everybody after the show. But keep in mind, we're live, and that's what we want to do, is to create that anxiety, that fear, that nervousness that comes with coming on stage, that before, when we had an audience in person, it was easy to do. Now with the camera, it's more difficult. So that's what we're planning to do, is to raise the stakes, and so that's why we're live streaming. All right, with that said, if anybody's got any last questions or issues, again, feel free to hop in the chat and ask them. Get on the channel. With that being said, though, Sean, Kaylee, anything else to add before we get the show started? Nope. If not, we'll get it going. Welcome everyone to the New Voice Live. So as you can see, we're still working through some technical difficulties, but we'll get there eventually. My name is Henry Kang. I am the Toastmaster for the evening. Welcome to our club. For those of you who have just joined us, feel free to reach out in the chat if you have any questions or problems about how to join us on New Voice. For those of you who are here as regular members, thanks for coming. We've got some really neat things I think we want to show you this evening as part of the show. But as always, what we're going to do is to spend our Toastmasters meeting filling it with table topics. So for those of you who are new, for the reasons that we are all part of the coronavirus, what we really want to do is to create a place where we can all just express how we're feeling in the time of coronavirus. And so all we're going to do are table topics for the evening. And I think we had a member, Janelle, who expressed it best, is that she felt like this was a way to journal, a way to keep record of how we're all feeling in the time of coronavirus. And so that's what we're asking you to do, is to hop on the table topic and tell us about how coronavirus is affecting your life, so that when this is live streamed as a permanent record on YouTube for all of us to watch throughout history, we can someday come back and go, oh yeah, I remember that time, and to watch ourselves and to re-experience the things that we experience today in a time of real uncertainty and a time that none of us has gone through before. So that's what we're doing with Table Topics, is to get you guys on screen to tell us about your life. So that will be in the second half of the meeting. But the first half, I thought what I would do is to get into some of the more table topics type of issues that we're all dealing with, which is life in the Zoom generation. And what I thought I would do is to start by asking you all a question for the chat. And that question would be, who is your favorite movie star? If you would do me a favor and in the support channel, just tell us your favorite movie star so that I can get some feedback as to who it is that you all like. The one caveat is that it has to be a movie star of the opposite sex. And if anybody happens to be transgender, you get to choose whichever sex you want, lucky you all. But please let me know in the chat. There's a reason why I'm asking this question, which I'll get to in a moment. But I did want to start to ask with the question, start the show with the question, who's your favorite movie star? What I'm going to do is then take a moment here to show a video as well that we've tried before, and sometimes we have some technical difficulties with it, but as far as movie stars are concerned, you know, there's a reason why Hollywood spends millions of dollars on movies, and that's to make people look good. And a big part of looking good is making sure that our presentation and our on-camera visual is as good as it can be. And one of those things that we all think about as we are on camera is how do we look? And so makeup is something I talk about in the New Voice quite a bit. And I was watching a program, I don't know if anybody watches CNBC, but there's a business program that talks about how Estee Lauder, the makeup company, is doing in the time of coronavirus. And you would have thought that they might be struggling, but it's interesting that they're doing fairly well. And I cut this segment for you all to check out because I thought it's an interesting take on the new world of coronavirus. Sorry about that. We're still dealing with the technical issues here. So that was from the CEO of Estee Lauder. And the point was is that even though we are on camera, the need to look good is still ever as important as it is when we're in person. And so Estee Lauder, you might think, would be not doing well. They're doing fabulous. They're doing great in this environment because everybody understands now looking in the camera, it's a different world. And I think that's what Sean, Kaylee, and I, as part of the New Voice leadership team, have decided is that what we're going to try to do is to transition New Voice Toastmasters into a club that helps us all look better on camera. Because this is the new way of life. We're now going to have to interact with the world through this little pinhole that we've never had to really think about before. That is still something that I'm struggling with and learning with because I have a tendency to look down at other things in my field of view, never thinking about the fact that the audience is right there. And so I think what we're going to try to do is to help us all get better on camera with the singular goal of making us all look as good as possible. And that means there are various things that we need to think about. First and foremost is how do we look, but also now our backgrounds. When we're in a regular Toastmasters class, we don't have to think about the background. The room is our background, the conference room, the stage, whatever it is. Now we have to create our stage. We have to create the background that we're in. So that's all stuff that as we move forward, we want to start thinking about and asking you as members to think about your backgrounds as well. Audio is another piece of it. A lot of us, I'm sure, have been on Zoom calls where there's an echo in the room, and it's really hard to hear the person as they talk. All those things make it more difficult for the listener to want to engage. And so for members and for guests, again, think about not only your visual background, but the audio. This is the stuff that's going to separate us all as we're on camera talking to this new world in terms of the little pinhole. So that's the message that I wanted to pass along, and the reason why I asked what your favorite movie stars were, because the whole point of that question was, again, the camera, Hollywood, is all designed to make us look as good as possible. And so that's what I think we need to practice at, and that's what we're doing here with the New Voice, is to practice looking good on camera. All right, with that said, I think it's time to let us start practicing. Kaylee, do we have our 10 speeches lined up by chance? Are we ready to go to table topics?
We're really close. We're close. We've got about 8 people. Thank you for signing up. We do have a couple slots left. We try and get all 10 people in because we want to have as many people as speak during this meeting as possible. So it's great to see those folks signed up. And I think with that transition, I think you're transitioning to table topics, Henry. It seems like I'm camera ready.
It was a little quick, but yes, we are. Take it away.
I love it. Great. Thanks so much for the introduction, Henry, and for supporting this club and for doing all this cool background. As you can see, we have a really awesome visual landscape in this club that Henry's put a lot of work into. So he has a huge, we have a huge debt for him for bringing us into the 21st century so that we all kind of look like we're Wolf Blitzers of the world. So welcome, everyone. It's great to see some familiar faces. Sean, thanks for being our recruiter. It's great to see your friends here. Sanella and Janie, I see you as familiar faces. Great to have you all. So as we mentioned before, for the past 8 weeks, we've really just been focusing on using table topics as a space for folks to talk about coronavirus and their experiences with it. It kind of seems trite to speak about anything else these days. But I did want to kind of start narrowing down and tweaking that question. So the question for tonight is going to be, if you knew in advance about coronavirus coming, what would you have done differently? If you'd known in advance about coronavirus, what would you have done differently? And while you take a couple beats to think about that, as those of you who are participating in our table topics tonight, what I'll say about that is, at some point in the future, you are all going to be asked the question, where were you during, and what were you doing during the 2020 coronavirus pandemic? Just like my parents always talk about where they were when JFK was shot, or what was happening during the Vietnam War. We're living in this historical moment that we have firsthand experiences of. And as Henry talked about, and as one of our members, Janelle, talked about last meeting, the witness aspect of this is becoming really profound to me. And I think because we have this form of table topics to start honing our storytelling abilities and continue to enhance our public speaking abilities, we sort of have this raw material available at our fingertips right now, these experienced direct firsthand accounts of going through this huge historical moment together. We have the raw material to make some really powerful stories. So I want to start kind of encouraging us to do that during table topics, to start thinking about, how am I going to bear witness to this? What are my experiences now? Let's put a lot of details in them about what your experiences of coronavirus. So down the line at those dinner tables that you'll sit at someday with your kids or with family members or friends, when you look back and talk about this historical moment and tell people what it's like, we have some of that fodder already, and we have some of those stories. And not for nothing too, as you can see, we are starting to put on a show here. And I have to be honest with you, you're the show. Table Topics is the core of our meetings. And as we're sort of presenting this as a show, we want to hear that content. We want to hear those stories. And we're going to try and sort of start elevating the quality of those, because that really is what Table Topics is about, right? Is starting to tell stories that are engaging, that people want to hear, and utilizing your public speaking skills through Toastmasters to do that. So that'll be the question of the evening. And as you can see, we have a sign up sheet here that I'll just start calling out people to come off mute and give their table topics. One other thing I want to mention, especially for those of you who have been with us in the past, is we have an added element that you'll see on the screen while you're giving your table topic. We have a little timer up, which those of you who are familiar with Toastmasters know this already, but the Toastmasters guideline is that we do about a 2-minute speech for table topics. So you'll see the clock counting up. When it gets to 2 minutes, it turns red. That's a guideline. You don't have to immediately cut off. We're not gonna like drag you off stage or anything, but it is a way for you to kind of know that you should start wrapping up, give sort of an ending to your story or a summation. And I just want to make sure you know that that timer is up there, and it's a guideline. You know, again, no penalty for going over. If you're at 45 seconds and you feel like you don't have enough to say, let's say try and stretch yourself to get to that 2-minute mark. But again, you will see that timer up there, as that is part of our Toastmasters tools that we use. Well, great. Let's get started. I don't want to take up much more time here because you all are going to carry the show now. So we'll go to our list, and up first for table topics, it looks like we have Tim, who's a first-time guest of our club. And so Tim, if you come off mute, and can you hear me?
Yes, can you guys hear me?
We can. And Tim, you're from New York, and your favorite movie is Inception. I love that movie too. Leonardo DiCaprio was actually what I was going to put for my favorite actor, so good choice. And you can take it away, Tim.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Kaylee, for such a lovely introduction. If I were to know about the coronavirus before it occurred, I would have actually taken a walk through Central Park. And those of you who might be native to New York might not think that it's a very special or meaningful thing, but I'm actually from Plymouth, Massachusetts, which is where the Pilgrims landed in 1620, and that's my hometown. You know, I'm sure you know about Thanksgiving and these sorts of things, but when I first moved to New York after graduating from school, the places that I was looking to after achieving this job were all around Central Park, because I dreamed about going on runs and about enjoying the park scene amidst, you know, one of, if not the best city in the world. I know, coming from somebody that's from Boston, that's a big say, but I haven't yet, based on circumstances and the organization of how I've structured my onboarding, you know, starting this new life in this beautiful new city, I haven't made the time yet, unfortunately, to go and stroll through Central Park. And that was one of the things that is really inspiring for me. I think one of the lessons learned of this epidemic, I hope, is a reappreciation, a resurgence for the things that we hold most dear and maybe that we might have taken for granted pre-coronavirus. And with that too, I'd like to add, it all worked out perfectly, though. I don't live, you know, directly near Central Park, but I am here on Roosevelt Island, where I have this lovely view of Queens that I'd like to share with you here. And I don't know if you can see it well or not, but that's Long Island City. And there, I'm looking out into Queens there, Rainy Park down there, and that park down by the water is actually where I go running now every morning. So it'll do for now, before I'm able to go for a jog in Central Park and start spending time there. So thank you so much for having me, and it's a pleasure to be here, and just really appreciative of the wonderful job you guys are doing here at the New Voice.
Thank you so much, Tim. Some confetti for you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, and welcome. I'm sorry I missed it. How long have you been in New York?
I've been in New York since September of last year, so close to, let me see, 8 or 9 months-ish.
8 or 9 months, and you haven't gotten to Central Park. Okay, yeah, we gotta get you there.
I know. And in the spirit of this meeting, my project actually that I'm working on at Gensler is Estee Lauder Companies, per this meeting too. And the site is the GM building, which is right at the southeastern corner of Central Park. So I have no excuse.
Gotcha. Oh, how funny. And we showed a Estee Lauder video today, and that's one of your clients.
I know.
Funny, so much synchronicity. Well, welcome to New York, first of all. It's awesome. Thanks for showing us your view, and we'll have to get you out to Central Park soon. Fingers crossed.
Thank you, guys.
It's great meeting you, Tim. Thanks for sharing.
Pleasure, guys. Thank you.
Wonderful. So I know there's a little bit of wackiness going on with the list here. Sometimes the cells overwrite each other, but I do know that the next two people are actually Lorena and Pauline. Steve and Steve and Cynthia, I do have you on the list, but I have you as 8 and 9. So sorry about that confusion. I'm going to stick to my version of the list. So Lorena is actually next. Lorena, can you hear me?
Hi, yes, how are you?
I'm well. Great to see you back. Thanks for coming again.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Take it away.
Okay, hello, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome guests. I am really learning a lot about stillness from being in this COVID situation. I know that we're so used to having our busy schedules, 9 to 5, coming and going, and always having something to do and somewhere to be, especially if you live here in New York. But the thing that I'm really coming to appreciate is having this time to just sit completely still and just let whatever happens. And I mean, yes, there are the issues with the joblessness and people, healthcare systems being overcrowded. I mean, like economies really going under. You name it. There are those things happening. Yes. Uh, on a positive note, though, it's nice to appreciate what's happening for the rest of the planet. Like if we kind of expand our sense of awareness and our sense of self, um, people are looking more into going off of coal and going more into solar energy. And the planet has actually had some time to kind of recuperate and heal from the damage that and the pollution that just kind of our comings and goings have inflicted upon it. So it's interesting to see what kind of happens when a situation such as this takes place. It just kind of forces everyone to sit completely still and appreciate the stillness, appreciate the healing, appreciate the resetting. And for me, this is what it's all about. And I'm really like, it's a shame that we have to go through certain things to make those things happen. But on the positive side, it makes me really appreciate where things might turn around for the future. So I see my time is up, so I'll just go ahead and turn it back over to you, Kaylee. Thank you guys for listening.
Thanks so much, Lorena. It's great to have you back again.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm sorry I forgot to mention that you are from New York and your favorite movie is Titanic, another Leonardo DiCaprio movie here. Great.
Right. Yes.
I definitely remember being 13 and falling in love with that movie and watching it too many times.
Yes, I saw it. I was the same way. I saw it like 5 times at the theater.
Yes, I know. I made my mom pay for about 3 or 4 times in the theater too. So you and I both have
Exactly.
very good and forgiving parents and mothers.
Right.
I really appreciated what you said. Thanks for sharing. I think the stillness and the healing and the resetting has been a major theme that we've talked about at Table Topics in weeks past, and you hit on that again. And I really think, as you know, as you're saying, there's like a healing there. I was wondering if you have any like healing or stillness practices that you engage in, or if that's exercise for you, or if that's meditation, or if there's any kind of tips you have for stillness.
Yes, actually, I have been usually like my usually I wake up and I'll go work out or something, go to the gym, but because I don't do that anymore, I've kind of gone completely the other way. So actually haven't been working out, but I've been reading a lot more. I've been kind of just reconnecting to the things that I used to do when I was like 12 years old, a 12-year-old kid in the basement, just listening to music and singing in the mirror and, reconnecting to things that I just really let fall to the wayside as I grew older. So it's been more along those lines. So yeah, I really, the books that I've been able to get through, I've been really like impressed with myself, like, wow, I finally finished that book that's been sitting over there on my shelf for like a really long time. Now I finally have time to actually finish that, and now I want to go and read this book. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
I think
great.
it's amazing. It's kind of like a reinventing, I think, is what's happening on a global scale for all of
Yeah.
us. So
Yeah, that's very insightful. Thank you. Yeah, I love the idea of you reverting to your 13-year-old self and reading in the basement and watching Titanic, obviously, a couple more
right.
times.
Exactly.
All right. Thanks so much, Lorena, for sharing.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks so much for that, Lorena. Again, I think we have a little confusion with the list, but I know Pauline was signed up next, so I want to make sure that we go to her next. Pauline, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can. So nice to meet you. And you are from New York?
Indeed, I am.
Wonderful. And I love your choice for favorite movie, Miss Congeniality, a classic Sandra Bullock film. Thanks so much for being here. Take it away.
All right. Thank you for having me. I'd like to say that if I knew that the pandemic was coming, I think something of this scale often throws you off your axis. Apologies if my video is tripping out a little. But with a pandemic that throws you off your scale, you feel kind of off your game, you're off your equilibrium. And I actually wanted to relate this to one of my favorite quotes from this movie. It's a scenario where they're in a beauty pageant, and one of the question and answer questions was, describe your perfect date. And everyone was expecting the contestant to describe a romantic date. But her response was to say that it was April 25th because it's not too hot and it's not too cold. All you need is a light jacket. And that kind of resonated with me in the situation right now, because it's this idea of comfort and this desire to have everything like that's just right. Whether you're Goldilocks, that bed is too big, that bed is too small, I just want to find the one that's just right for me. There's this sense of wanting to make something that feels right for you. And so if had I known that the pandemic was coming, I probably would have made some steps to set up my optimal work setting for working from home, get all my groceries, make all these arrangements so that I could feel just right in the midst of all this chaos. And so that's how I related to this pandemic, and I was inspired by seeing the question of the day. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thanks so much, Pauline. I'm impressed you could quote that movie. You came right up with that quote. I love that. Just right. Not too hot, not too cold.
Exactly.
So is there, you mentioned wishing you had made more arrangements, sort of like getting your fridge stocked and getting enough toilet paper and all that. Is there a certain food you're missing right now that you wish you had stocked up on pre-coronavirus?
I think the hardest is fresh fruits and veggies, because we can only do so much with buying it 3 weeks in advance and putting it in the fridge or freezer. So maybe it would be more about getting a fridge, an extra fridge, or I don't even know what that optimal situation would be, but.
No, you're totally right. And I've been making so much banana bread with my spoiled bananas because I have the same problem. So I feel you on that.
I think the whole world has been making banana bread.
It's all we're eating now. Yeah, it's all we're eating. All right. Thanks, Pauline. Thanks for sharing, and welcome to our club.
Thanks.
Excellent. Oh, great. I think we've got our list a little more updated. Perhaps I have Gabriella next up for table topics, and Gabriella is coming to us from Connecticut. Awesome. And Gabriella, you and I have the similar favorite movies. Shawshank Redemption is always my go-to when I'm asked the question of favorite movie. So I love that you use that. Are you there? Can you hear me all right? Are we hearing each other?
Yes, I can hear you. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, we can. Welcome and take it away.
Thank you. So thank you guys for having me. I'm really enjoying all this technical wonderfulness in your meeting. I'm also in a Toastmasters meeting. However, the first half hour of my Toastmasters meeting is everyone still trying to figure out the Zoom. So this is so wonderful. But to answer the question that's on the table here, if I were to do something different, knowing that coronavirus was coming, I would have planned my vacation for a lot sooner. I was supposed to be in Punta Cana right now, sit on the beach, sipping my margaritas, and unfortunately it got canceled. So if I would have known that coronavirus was coming, I would have taken a vacation in January or February before everything got shut down, because I am one of those people who does not like the cold. I do not like the winter. I'll go out, I'll go skiing, but when I come back home, I don't like the snow. So I really enjoy a tropical beachy vacation and get some good vitamin D. So that's the one thing I would have done differently. And coronavirus has really not made too much of a change in my day-to-day life. My business has been really great, been the same. I'm kind of an introvert, so I don't really get out as much anyways. So I like staying home and watching Netflix and watching movies when I have time. But the biggest thing that I think, if there was a change, would be my health consciousness. I've done a lot of research now about your immune system and the foods that you should and shouldn't be eating in order to maintain a really healthy immune system, and thinking a lot about, using foods as preventative medicine rather than waiting to get sick and taking something over the counter. So that, I think, is going to be a really good thing for me that I probably would not have gotten without this coronavirus. So after coronavirus is over, I'm definitely going to have a new emphasis on putting healthy food into my body. So thank you guys so much for having me, and I'll turn it right back to you.
Thank you, Gabriella. Great to meet you and great to be seeing you. I really feel for you on that vacation. I'm so sorry you didn't get to take that vacation. That's gotta be a heartbreaker. I keep hearing these stories of people who are like stuck on desert islands or like, beautiful Caribbean islands because the airlines shut down as they were on their vacation, and it's hard to feel bad for them.
I don't feel bad for them at all. I wish I would have.
I'm with you. I'm with you. So thanks for sharing. I wondered, you spoke a little bit about foods that are good for preventative health. Is there any tip you can give us of something we should be eating right now that's good nutrition and good for immunity?
Yeah, so I was doing a lot of research and I found that drinking raw milk is actually really good for you. They had such a big stigma around it of how it could be dangerous and whatnot, but the danger is very, very minimal and the benefits are huge. When milk gets processed and it goes through the heat system to pasteurize it, it gets rid of all the good bacteria that our gut needs in order to keep our immune systems running. So I found this little farm that is has license to sell actually raw goat's milk. I've been drinking, and that's like my new thing that I do now. So there's a tip for you guys. Raw milk is actually good.
Wow, that is a good tip. If I can get my hands on some, it sounds like it'd be delicious to have with my banana bread. So let's see if I can make that happen. Thanks, Gabriella. Thanks so much for sharing. We'll go back to our list here, and it looks like we're in good shape in terms of our order. So next up is Janet, another first-time Toastmaster joining us. Janet, you are from New York, and your favorite movie is Moonstruck. I love Cher. That's great. Can you hear me, Janet?
She is great. It was a great. Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, great. We are now. Yep, we had a little delay, but we can hear you. So take it away.
So like Gabriella, I had to cancel a trip. So other than that, though, there's not much I would have changed had I known about coronavirus. And in fact, I believe that in every dark cloud, there is a silver lining. And for me, it fell into three categories, really: personal, relationship, and business. And on a personal level, as Lorena mentioned, there's been time to become more introspective, exercise more, get outside, time with my husband. All of that has been wonderful. Even better, I have had the opportunity to build relationships with people on Zoom. And that both new people and people I already know. And I think it's because not only do people have more time because they don't have the conflict of other activities, but we're facing that common trauma and there's a natural connection there. So I have found people more willing to connect now than they are under normal circumstances, which has been wonderful for me. And finally, from a business point of view, I own a women's clothing brand called Go Go Gracious. And we are a direct selling company and do a lot of business in person at meetings, at events, etc. And the coronavirus has forced me to rethink everything and how to give our highly personal, high touch experience in a virtual way, both using Zoom and also social media in a more advanced way, like it's more of a pull strategy than a push strategy on social media for us now. So for example, I'll be doing Facebook Live for the very first time on Thursday, and I will be speaking about why this is a great time to start a business if you have been furloughed or laid off. I will drop my contact information into the chat and would welcome anyone who would like to know more or know someone who would like to know more to reach out and contact me. I would love to speak with you. And this has been a wonderful opportunity, and I thank you so much.
Thank you, Janet. Thanks so much for being here.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
I definitely felt you on the willingness of people right now to connect than in previous times before coronavirus, which I think is such an interesting phenomenon. And as you said, Zoom is a great way of doing that. So I'm intrigued about your Facebook Live. Are you you're speaking about why people should open businesses right now. How long has your business been running?
My business has been running over 20 years. And the reason it's a great time to start a business is because many people have time, and on just 10 to 15 hours a week.
We may be losing you a little bit, Janet, due to some technical in and out audio. Sorry about that, Janet. I think we missed you, but had a little bit of trouble with audio, but I think Janet is going to put some of her information in the chat, so anyone interested in her business can find out more through her. Thanks for that, Janet, for sharing.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
And next up for Table Topics will be Ethan, a guest of ours. Welcome, Ethan. Ethan is in Los Angeles. And were you a friend of Rajiv's? Or no, Sanella's?
No, Stanella, yeah. So I've known her for a couple of years, so and she told me about this group, and I said, okay, it's a good opportunity to check it out and then actually see her on Zoom as well.
Yep, exactly. And your favorite movie is Swingers, which I definitely relate to because that was my brother's favorite movie growing up, and I tried to be cool like him, so I would say it was my favorite movie as well. Very LA of you as well.
Yeah, it shows all the LA spots there, back in the day.
Very quintessential LA movie. Well, thanks for being here. Take it away.
Thank you. So I have a global role. I work for one of the big banks or global banks. So I think I've had like the opportunity, especially in the last quarter, to kind of almost see this coming. I didn't think it was going to be that bad, but at least like I've heard of it when I was like traveling in Asia around November, December timeframe. So I mean, there were some inklings there that I was reading or heard rumblings about, but never thought in my wildest dreams that it would like, impact the other countries as bad as they did. I mean, I went through SARS like through Asia, and it wasn't as bad. It didn't spread as much. So this also kind of caught me off guard in terms of how broad and how bad it got. So I think one of the things that just because I had that information ahead of time, I think one of the major things from a personal finance perspective, I think I would have probably pulled out of the market more than I would have pulled out, if I had known that it was going to get this bad. Because I know in the maybe January, February timeframe, I started pulling back on some of my investments and taking some money out of the market. But like I said, I didn't think it was going to get this bad, and I probably would have been able to kind of pull out more, just to kind of, survive the downturn. But like I said, with every crisis, there's kind of an opportunity, so we shouldn't waste that. So I actually started putting back in when it was kind of nearing the bottom. So I mean, obviously we can't guess when the bottom comes out, but I started kind of putting more investment back in there just so I can kind of get the bump up, during this time frame. I think I've heard in a few places you can't let a good crisis go to waste, right? I mean, there's a lot of opportunities. I know it's kind of looking kind of bad right now, but there's a lot of opportunities out there to kind of see what we're doing, not even from a career wise, but also from a personal perspective, like everybody here has said. Even from us, we've started seeing things that we can do better in terms of like digitization and trying to pivot and accelerate things, just because we know that the way the world's going to be in the next few months, if not in the next year or so, is definitely going to be busy and different moving forward, right? And then from a personal basis, I think I probably would have gotten more exercise equipment at home, because right now I've been pretty much just running or walking, and then I wish I had invested in a lot of weights. I think Sanel has heard me a few times where I complained that I wish I bought more weights going into this.
Thank you, Ethan. Thanks so much for sharing. Yeah, I mean, I think everything you're saying about wishing or looking at markets and wishing you'd done things different, or you know, everyone wishes they had bought stock in Zoom, obviously. I love your line, don't, you know, you can't let a good crisis go to waste. I think that's really, really a great perspective, and looking at it in terms of silver linings. What is LA like right now? Like when you go out, are people outside exercising? Do people feel safe enough to do that?
Yeah, I think they're walking around. I mean, obviously, we can't gather in the same places. I mean, they started opening up the beaches this week, but they haven't. You know, you can't lay out or anything like that, and you have to keep moving. And then you pretty much have to wear the mask. I mean, the weather in the last few weeks. I mean, it's gotten better. It starts getting, and then now it's starting to get warmer and warmer. So I think right now it's about in the 80s. So we expect probably in the weekend it's going to go a little bit higher, and then there's going to be a lot more people who want to be out. Especially if we, you know, in LA we've been in lockdown for about 2 months already. So I myself is feeling a little bit, you know, isolated too much at this point, and I do want to kind of head out a little bit, and you know, obviously practicing social distance, but I do want to, you know, check out the outside a little bit more.
Yeah, everyone's going a little stir crazy, right? We're in the same situation in New York. As the weather gets better, hard to not be outside. But I will say, I think cans of soup would make good weights if you're really looking for some exercise. There's things around the house you can use.
Thank you.
No problem. Take care. Thanks, Ethan, for sharing.
Thank you.
Great, and we'll keep going with our table topics here. Next up on our list is Dulce. Dee, I think I saw you earlier. Are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, and can you see me now?
I can. We're seeing you. This is great. You got your camera going, huh?
Right, and my friend Christina is here with me. As a result of which, we're both wearing masks.
It's good safety.
I'm glad we were able.
We're having a little trouble hearing you. Are you do you have are you able to hear us right now? Because I think we're going in and out a little bit. You may have a difficult connection here. So if we're having too much trouble connecting with you, Dee, I think I'll go on to the next person, and then maybe we can get you in again, because I think we're not hearing you at the moment. We're having some trouble with the audio. Can't quite hear you. So Dee, we're gonna come back to you, okay? Sorry about that, guys. Always a little bit of technical difficulties. So we're gonna go on to Steve. Steve and Cynthia are in Kentucky, right? And Dee, we'll try and get you in at the end. But Steve, you there?
Yes, I am.
Wonderful. It's wonderful to meet you. And you guys are from Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. Great. And your favorite movie is Kiss of the Spider Woman, which I'm actually not familiar with, but I'll have to check out. I'll let you take it away. Thanks for being here.
Okay. You asked, what would we have done differently before the coronavirus if we had known it was coming? And I have to say that I'm the type of person, I live the life in front of me. So I don't know too many things that I would have done differently, because I really can't see the future. But one thing I do wish I had done more of before the coronavirus is to go to more online meetings of Toastmasters. I have a friend who's been to Toastmasters meetings online for the last couple of years all over the world. And she goes to our club in Midway, Kentucky. And it was very beneficial to our club to have her experience and her knowledge when we went to online meetings like your club has. We don't have this channel yet, so I'm very intrigued by that. And I might get her to contact you and see about that. The other thing about this is, you know, you have certain things like toilet paper, sanitizer, things like that, people stocked up on, and we really never had any issues with that. But the one thing that we have had issues trying to find is dried pinto beans. I don't know if you know what pinto beans are, but pinto beans are simply not to be found anywhere in our town of Lawrenceburg and Harrodsburg and Frankfort and all the little towns around us. We're in a very rural area. We can't find those pinto beans. So if I'd known what was coming, I would have stocked up on pinto beans just so that we would have a supply of them. And other thing that I've noticed with the coronavirus is I've had the opportunity just to step back and sit back and just observe life. And we've had a robin create a nest under the eave on our front porch. She had eggs, now she has babies, and we've just been fascinated with the progress of our little baby robins growing on the front porch under the eave. And it's just been amazing to chronicle that on Facebook day after day after day. And we're afraid our babies are about ready to leave the nest. Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks so much for sharing. So you said you're in a more rural area. What's like the closest city to Lawrenceburg?
Frankfurt.
Lexington, Kentucky.
Oh, big city.
Yeah, like a couple of 100,000. So we're very small. Lawrenceburg is probably maybe 5 or 10,000 people. So we, when you show me the skyscrapers from your apartment in Queens, we visited New York City last year. We did get to go to Central Park. So we really loved visiting there, but we're just simple country folks.
No, you got to Central Park before Tim, though.
Right, exactly.
Rubbing it in.
Tim, you're letting Steve and Cynthia show you up from Kentucky.
I know. Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Well, thanks for sharing, Steve. I'm really curious, what's your recipe for, what do you use your dried pinto beans for? I don't think I've ever cooked with dried pinto beans, but you're clearly wanting to make something.
Recipe for pinto beans.
Okay, well, I'm a simple, I do the cooking around the house. So the simple recipe I have is I sometimes soak them overnight, then I put them in the crock pot and let them cook for 8 to 10 hours. Salt, pepper, a little bit of olive oil, and that's all I do. Simple.
Love it. That sounds great. I hope you find some of those soon because that sounds like a great recipe. Thanks for sharing, Steve.
Thank you.
I'm done.
And I have a feeling we'll just go right over to you, Cynthia, because you are in the frame. And welcome.
Okay. Well, Steve is a fantastic cook, and I have really benefited from the coronavirus because he does a lot of cooking and he's a good cook. So I am glad about that. He is forgetting that we did have trouble in the beginning with toilet paper, which probably everybody did. And here we would go early in the morning. Nope, they said they didn't have any. The truck didn't come. We went to Walmart and Kroger, 6 o'clock in the morning. Nope, truck didn't come. We would go every single day, and we had some, but I started getting panicky, like we should probably have more because this little bit may not last us long. But finally, I have to say, we finally did get toilet paper. And now every time we go to the store, we kind of look, should we get any? So just don't know, that panicky phase is still there. But so that is something I probably would have stocked up on, something I would have done. But one thing I look at, life, and this is only since I've gotten older, and I'm so glad the younger people are doing this, but I look at life as a journey. And whatever happens, up, down, good or bad, don't fret over it. It could be a story. It could be a speech. And what we do is stand-up comedy. It could be some kind of material you do, because it has been unbelievable, all the things that has happened. One thing is, I know a lot of people get, at least in Kentucky, get very angry, and my fault for reading comment section. Don't do that, I wouldn't suggest. But our governor would put out something, and then I start reading, and people don't like things he's saying. So I try to get a little bit of levity going. So on garbage day, which is Wednesday, we dress up to go take the garbage out. So one day he was suit and tie, and I'm all decked out in my jewels. One day he was Spider-Man. And last week, I think we were Raggedy Ann and Andy. So we try to do, and then of course I put it on Facebook because we want people to laugh. We don't want all the stress going on because it is a hard situation, but you just have to, it's going to be over one day. So you just can't let it get you all balled up in a knot. So I do appreciate all these other people giving stress tips and everything. So thank you very much, Miss Table Topics Master.
Thanks so much for sharing, Cynthia. I believe you when you say you're stand-up comedians. You two just have such a good banter back and forth and such a good energy. I really hope you're taking pictures of yourself as you dress up to take out the garbage.
Yes, we are.
I think you maybe should start a social media page for that. We can figure out a funny name for you guys, the garbage, I don't know, garbage duos, garbage clown duos or something.
Where are you?
I love that. Yeah. Well, you both have such a good energy, so much levity. That's, so necessary right now. I feel like we probably crack each other up. And I'm glad you have your toilet paper. So thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
Great to meet you, Steve and Cynthia. Really fun to have you. Dee, can you hear me now? We still want to hear from you during our table topics, but I know you're having some technical difficulties. Dee, are you still there?
Can you hear me now?
We can see you, and I can hear you. I can hear you.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, I'm so glad because Christina is here and she is my savior. If she hadn't been here, I wouldn't have been able to see you. Okay, here's what's going on. For me, the question I got, well, first of all, who's my favorite doctor? I don't remember anymore, but Paul Newman I used to love. I remember him saying, Miss Clara, never say never. And that was in the long hot summer, and that was a long time ago. And the reason I can't forget that is that there was a Georgian woman who came with us in the IBM trip to Greece. And she talked like that. I thought that was a joke. I didn't think people really talked like that, except that she did. She used to say, I gotta go comb my hair. And hair was a two-syllabled word, So anyway, that's one of my favorites. What would I have done differently? Well, first of all, I would have made arrangements that I wouldn't be alone during this. My niece left and went to be with her mother for 2 weeks. And I really hate being alone. Now, somebody else was saying how she cherishes the time being alone, right? And a lot of people do like solitude. I don't. Actually, I do like my solitude, but not when I'm in the house alone. I like my solitude when there are other people around. I remember when I was growing up, I used to love the idea of being in a home with 4 other children. It was great. And yet, we weren't on top of each other. There was a lot of room. And I used to think when I grew up, I'd have 5 children of my own, 4 actually. But they'd be in different rooms all over the place. And I have always fantasized on having a house in Nyack. I even have a picture of it on my wall. And I know which room each person would have. And I know that we would do skiing, cross-country skiing when it was cold, when there was snow, all of that. Well, I don't think I could have arranged that for COVID-19. All I know is I have to give thanks, and I'm learning to know myself better. And I have spent a lot more time praying than I used to before, because I really hate to be alone. And yet, my religion teaches me that I'm never alone. Anyway, bottom line is we take it as it comes. And we can't say that we welcome it. Oh, that's the end, huh? I didn't realize that. Well,
Sorry
bless
about
you,
that,
bless
Dee.
you, and thank you. What?
Thank you,
Thank
Dee.
you.
Yep, I think we had a little lag between hearing you and seeing you, so we might have cut you off a little early, but thanks for sharing.
That's all right. That's
Yep.
all right. And bless
I'm glad you have a friend with you now too. Thanks, Dee.
She's leaving. There she is.
Hi, Christina. Well, thanks so
Thank
much.
you for doing this.
Great to see you. Great to see you. Thanks for spending time with Dee, who's a longtime member of ours here at the New Voice, and we're glad to see she's doing well and has a friend right now. So thank you all. We have one more slot for table topics, and Sean is going to be next up for us. Sean, who is on the leadership team of this club and a huge, huge asset, especially because he's been recruiting for us right now. So Sean, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Kaylee. And it's been a real pleasure to hear everybody talk so far. I mean, there are a lot of great stories and a lot of insights that we can take from every person who's spoken. So what I wanted to say, some other people have already said. So I think similar to two people who have spoken, I also lost out on a trip, which was tough, but I do plan on taking that trip at some point soon. And the other thing was, as someone who goes to the gym quite often, trying to transition to working out from home has been difficult, but it's a challenge that I've taken head on, and we've heard other people rise to the occasion when confronted with challenges. This is what our club is all about, and that's the kind of stuff that supports compelling speaking. So we're happy to hear those kind of stories. I don't think I can pinpoint one or two things before this whole pandemic started, but if I did have to choose something, it would probably be eating out more, because there are certain foods that just taste better when you're out somewhere as opposed to trying to cook it in your own house. For example, sushi. I wouldn't know where to start, but I'm a big sushi fan, so that's something I'm definitely craving and looking forward to having sooner rather than later. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing, Sean. Yeah, I feel you with the restaurants. I keep thinking about how New York will be a very different landscape if some of our restaurants don't come back, and if many of them don't come back. Do you have a favorite restaurant that you'll go back to as soon as the quarantine is lifted?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many to choose from, and the list is always growing longer and longer.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks for that. And with that, I think we're concluding table topics. Thank you so much for everyone who participated. It's so interesting to me and so great to have so many people tell their stories, because each of us are having a very individual experience of that within the confines of four walls for most of us in apartments in New York or within houses elsewhere. Before we close out the table topics portion of the meeting, we do want to do something a little different this time in efforts to recognize people's growth in Toastmasters. We're going to have a poll that comes up on your screen, and we're going to vote for the most inspiring speaker of the evening, the person who had the best eye contact, and the person who had the best background. So you'll see a poll that pops up on your screen now. This is a cool feature of Zoom. And there's 3 questions. The speaker 1, speaker 2, speaker 3 relates to the order that is on our list, and I'll read those out just so everyone has those, but take 45 seconds here and do the poll. So speaker 1 would be Tim, speaker 2 is Lorena, speaker 3 is Pauline, speaker 4 was Gabriella, speaker 5 was Janet, speaker 6 was Ethan, speaker 7 we'll say is Dulce. We're just a little out of order, but that's fine. Speaker 7 was Dulce, speaker 8 was Steve, speaker 9, Cynthia, and speaker 10, Sean. And that's on your screen right now as well. So take maybe another 15 to 20 seconds to complete that poll. So we'll take a few more seconds here to get a few more people taking the poll. The poll's on your screen right now. And we have the Jerry Maguire Award, which is, of course, the most inspiring speaker of the evening, the Cecil B. DeMille Award for Best Background, and the Here's Looking at You Award for Best Eye Contact. And we're not going to actually share the results tonight. We're going to share them in next week's email. We send out an weekly e-newsletter. If you're not on that currently, send me your email address in the chat so I can get you signed up for that, because I know we have some new folks here this week. But we'll announce the winners of that in the email. We just want to recognize folks for the good job they're doing and the skills that they're working on here at Toastmasters. All right, great. Sean, I think we can close out that poll. And thanks so much for that, y'all. And as I said, we'll have those results in the, was that poll working for everyone? I know some of you might have been having a little trouble. Try that again. And Sean, you may have to relaunch because I realized I didn't close out of the poll on my end, which may have caused some problems. So we relaunched that poll in case it wasn't working for you before. Trying that one more time here. All right, I think we're probably good with that poll. Thanks, y'all. Sean, you can close that out. And that concludes Table Topics. Again, thank you so much for participating. And thank you also, I know we've gone over time a little bit, but we did want to hear from as many of you as possible. And with that, I'll turn the meeting back over to Henry.
Thank you, Kaylee, for that. A virtual round of applause for you. And thanks for everybody for participating. So I just want to take a minute real quick before we close out the meeting to say thank you again for attending. This is something that is not easy to do. We've been at it for, as I said, a couple months now, and every week we're getting better. But as you can tell, it's a different form of interaction for us on camera. And so I know that it's going to take some time for us to get to a place where we're consistent. It still feels a little awkward at times. It still feels as if it's not polished and professional because we're competing as television. So bear with us, if you would, as we go through this process. And I do want to say thank you again for attending and helping us get better. That's what I think Toastmasters is all about. And as fellow Toastmasters, thank you for coming from all around the world, in Kentucky and from New York. Sean's friend, Sanella, thanks for the invitation of your friends as well. I'm going to ask you all to again extend your invitations to your friends so that we have an audience and can continue on. I think we're going to be here for a while, so despite the hurdles, eventually over time, my feeling is we'll get it down to a place where it feels pretty good and tight, but it's going to be a work in process. So until then, we need your help, as I said. So thanks for coming. Please don't be a stranger. What we do afterwards now is to kind of let the session stay open. For those of you who wanted to kind of say hello and get to know each other a little bit better, feel free to stay on afterwards. It's called After Hours, so get a cocktail if you want. We also want to get everybody onboarded to the support if you couldn't do that in After Hours as well. But with that being said, it's time to wrap up the show. thanks for coming. As I said, we're going to leave it on. We're going to take a 10-minute break, come back and enjoy after hours with us, and we'll get to know each other a little bit better that way. So thanks again for coming. Kaylee, Sean, before I leave, do any questions, comments from you all before I tune out from the president and Sean? If not,
Yeah, I don't think so. You know, again, thanks to everyone for coming. I'm happy to stay on right now and help anyone who wasn't able to get into the live support channel. I can walk you through that. I know it's a couple step process, but as you can kind of see, we're trying to move everyone from the chat, which we're all kind of know really well how to do within the Zoom video conference, but we want to move people over into that live channel. So I'm happy to walk anyone through that right now, because the big incentive is you can use GIFs, guys. GIFs are the best, and you can use them to your heart's delight in the live support channel. So let me know if anyone wants me to walk them through that now. Otherwise, I think, you know, it's been great to have so many people here and new faces. Please do come back again.
yes. Thank you all for coming. Like I said, stick around for after hours. We're just going to keep the room open. I'm going to go get a drink and come back in 10 minutes. So come back and join us.